So tell me, who are you?
So I'm David Kellie. I'm the Chief Executive of the Natural Diamond Council.
Natural Diamond Council. Wow. So you want to sell natural diamonds, or you want to get other people to sell natural diamonds, or what's the deal with natural diamonds these days?
Yeah, so we are a not-for-profit organisation. So we're not commercial. We're not actually selling diamonds. But we work on behalf of the diamond industry to promote and market natural diamonds all around the world. So that's obviously a very big topic. It's a very complicated subject matter when you look at it on a global basis. But that's our role within the diamond industry.
So what's the situation? I mean, natural diamonds, synthetic diamonds, like what's going on? What's happening in the field out there?
So Martin, obviously you've got many more years experience in this industry than I have. So I'm always interested in other people's views of it. And where that is in the context of history. But now seems a very unique time in terms of the challenges, both in terms of the scale of the challenges and the period of time that they've gone on over. And I think it's a very nuanced challenge because there are strengths in the market. There are places where diamonds are doing extremely well. There are other areas where they're not doing so well. And so I think whenever people ask me questions specifically about the market, it's kind of, well, there's many, many different markets within one market. And so it's about understanding each of those markets. And so if I can give you an example, even in the US alone, so one market often referred to, how are things in the US? Well, there are two very, very distinct markets in the US. There are the high-end independent jewelers that are still doing incredibly well. Their clients are multi-generational. Their clients are generally wealthy clients. And in today's world, people with money have grown their wealth. They are more wealthy and are still spending that money. Meanwhile, those that don't have generational wealth, don't have wealth in the bank, they are spending from income. And they've been heavily impacted by the cost of living. So even the two different tiers in the US market are behaving very differently at the moment. And then you then go to India, China, Europe, and each one has its own nuances. So it's complicated. Each of them has their own potentials and different timescales for when they will get, how they will get stronger. But that is what we look at. We don't treat it as one market. It's multiple markets when you break it down.
So let's look at the United States. Okay, so you've got synthetic diamonds and you've got natural diamonds. You have people that don't have much money and you have people that have a lot of money. Is it fair to say that maybe we can segment these markets out so that we're talking and saying, well, we want to sell natural diamonds to people that do have money, and we recognize that there's going to be a preference for synthetic diamonds for those people that don't have that much money and they want to save money and they want to do that. So is that a fair kind of way to look at things?
I think it's the most logical way, but I think in reality, there's a lot about consumer behavior that we anticipate that doesn't come about. The reality is that most young consumers, irrespective of their backgrounds, are challenged financially at the moment with inflation, with cost of living that's gone on. So most young people anywhere in the world have got greater challenges than generations before them. And if they do have money, and particularly if they're getting married, they're buying their first homes. Homes and housing has never been more expensive relative to income. So just homes alone are expensive. Add on to that the expectation of the big wedding, the big parties that go on around it, the honeymoon, everything else that goes on around it. There are very few people in the young generation who don't have to work on a budget, but also, such as American society and social media, they also have high expectations as to what they are, how they present themselves to friends and colleagues and their own image.
So, first of all, when you say young people, are you talking about 20s, 30s,
Yeah, I think Gen Z and millennials, which is kind of almost up to the age of 40, is the millennial generation now. So it's what we call Gen Z and millennials.
Okay, it was the millennials. But let's look at this. Let's say we can slice. We're talking about America.
Yeah.
So that makes it a little more narrower focus. And we're talking about the 30s, where people already have some income. She's working, he's working. She's thinking about whether or not she wants to have children. and she's saying, okay, I'm getting married. And so you got these 30s people that have worth the wait people, and they're now getting married.
Yeah.
And so in that group, you might have different, wealth factors, okay? And maybe I would differentiate this by saying, okay, there's certain people who are making investment income, or they have more money than they need to live day to day, okay?
Yeah.
And would that be a fair thing to say, okay, those are the guys we want to really sell those natural diamonds to? I'm not saying we don't want to sell them to other people.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at trying to define a target market that we can look at and then try to understand, okay, what's happening with that target market? Theoretically, they at least have the potential to buy diamonds, natural diamonds. That means they're old enough to have the income necessary. Maybe they have to buy a house. You're right about that. But they're getting married once in a lifetime. They're in their 30s. They're serious people. They're not in their 20s. They're not paying off college debt, maybe, or maybe they are, but mostly they're not. Yeah. They can afford the natural diamond, okay? So I'm thinking about that group of people. Are we hitting them? Are we giving them the diamond dream? Are we stimulating them? What are we doing with those people?
Yeah, and I'm not even too sure that group exists, Martin, as you describe it. I'm very fortunate to have lived in a very privileged area of America for the last 10 years, and I'm yet to meet anyone, even in their 30s, who says, I've got disposable income, because they're either paying off college debt or they're thinking about college education for their children. So I don't think there's anyone that I've come across, apart from a very narrow band of maybe people who make very high bonuses, that has what they would call disposable income. So for me, how that affects diamonds is we are competing. It's not saying I've got money in the bank, I can buy what I want. It's to say I'm making choices. I'm making a choice, and our job is to convince them, explain to them why a natural diamond is a great choice. Why spend money on diamond jewelry? That's, and how that is good value for money. So for me, a natural diamond is an amazing value for money, because you buy it and it's with you for a lifetime. You pass it on to future generations. It's the one thing that you'll wear on your body probably every day for your lifetime. So if there's somewhere to spend money, it's not on a bag, it's not on shoes, it's not on dresses, it's not on a lot of things that the endorphin rush disappears after you've bought it. It's on diamond jewelry, but we have to ensure that message gets through to the consumer.
So our messaging is that diamonds are better, maybe, than other competing things that you may want to buy that would give you short-term thrill or short-term whippiness, because the diamond is going to provide you with a consistent long-term appreciation and a consistent long-term maybe value. I don't know, but let's just stick with that. We'll talk about value in a minute. So that's the messaging that you're thinking of.
It's the messaging. It's also jewelry in total is the one thing that is unique to the individual. We all like to think that we're individuals, we're our own people, but the reality is most things that we do, we belong to a tribe. And whether that's the way we dress, the homes we live in, the cars we drive, where we go on vacations, we all belong to a tribe of some kind or another. But jewelry is the one thing that is personal. There's no two people in the world that have the same collection of jewelry. It's all, and whenever you sit with someone at dinner and talk to them about their jewelry, each piece of jewelry has a story to it. It's either a celebration of a relationship or an achievement, or it's been when they travel. And so jewelry is a big part of someone's personality, and that's much more so than anything else they buy. So it's an incredibly important purchase for them. We just have to make sure we reinforce that constantly, to say this is about your personality, it's about your being, it's about your individuality, and there is nothing else in the world that you buy or purchase or own that does that.
So now I'm looking at these messaging and I'm thinking, what you just gave me now wasn't as much, I would think, rational as emotional, which is good. In other words, we're talking to you, and I'm kind of looking at the De Beers ads, which is, I think, a very emotional messaging. It's an emotional marketing, actually, which says, look, you've had this life experience, and this reflects that life experience, and therefore you're buying this diamond, and that's why you want to buy a natural diamond, because it has additional meaning to you other than the rational thought it's cheaper or it's this and that. We're not talking about the price here. And you're coming up with something interesting that's also kind of a rational argument, but it's also a rational argument for an emotional appeal that says to you, hey, you know, spend the money on jewelry instead of spending it on a vacation, okay?
Yeah.
And that's a rational, the trade-off, okay? And so, you know, you're thinking, and also you're saying that even the 30s, you don't see them with disposable income, extra disposable income. That means that everybody's kind of living foot to mouth in the United States pretty much, you know?
Yeah, and I think globally, because inevitably, without going into too much into economics, property ends up absorbing any extra income that people have. If people have extra income, inevitably they bid up prices on property. They want a better apartment, they want a better house. So we're never in a situation by which people, when they're younger, are sitting there and saying, I've got money, because they will go out and they will spend it, particularly on property. So, so to take your first argument, yes, I mean, jewelry and diamond jewelry in particular, it's all about emotion. When you think, even if you're buying a bag, even if, you know, you've already got a number of bags or shoes, it can still be justified that I need it. I need a bag for this occasion to go with this outfit. It's justified by a need. Whether that's true or not is a different topic, but it's justified by a need. Diamonds and jewelry isn't justified by a need. And in fact, the one area where there is a perceived need is engagement rings. And it's for that reason, I think, that lab-grown diamonds has penetrated into that market, is because there is a need. There's an expectation, there's a tradition, there's a custom. But actually, I want to see, you know, because I have to buy it, that's where it's, well, okay, maybe I'll compromise on it. Whereas, and it was the big thing that the industry understandably misinterpreted when they anticipated that lab-grown diamonds would penetrate into fashion jewelry rather than bridal. And it's because when she buys for herself, it's a choice. And when I buy for myself and it's a choice, I want the real, I want the natural, I want the thing that has the most meaning. When I'm buying for bridal, it's an expectation, it's a custom, I have to get it, it's part of the overall celebration. And therefore, that's where let me see if I can get a bigger diamond, you know, for less money, because it's an expectation, and it's therefore it is much more of a rational purchase.
So I'm getting another understanding, which is good, which is like, okay, I'm sitting here, I'm getting married, I got all these things in front of me. And only one of those things is to have jewelry or an engagement ring, say. And I'm thinking about that. So now it's a whole challenge for me to decide, I want to buy an engagement ring. That's the number one question. You got to get some kind of ring, right? I think, I don't know. But then I'm hearing some people say, I don't need an engagement ring, which I don't think most women think that way at all.
Yeah.
Okay. So now that I'm going to put some money, instead of maybe more honeymoon or more wedding or something, I'm going to put that into into diamonds. Now I got another split in the road, okay? You know, so I'm sitting here and I'm looking at stuff, okay, I got, you know, student dad, I got, you know, honeymoon, weddings, you know, flowers for the wedding, wedding cake, you know, and all this stuff going on. If they're thinking that far ahead. I like the old days when they got engaged and the wedding was later, but let's say it's all bundled somehow. So then I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to have to spend some budget on the diamond engagement ring. And I don't know if she's thinking about it, if he's thinking about it, if they're both thinking about it. I love the good old days when she didn't get to do that. You know, it was his decision. Okay, but now I confront this issue that I've decided to buy a diamond engagement ring, not a colored stone engagement ring, not an engagement ring, not something else. And then, boom, you throw me another crossroads. And one crossroad costs less money, and it'll do. It'll do. How many people, you know, there's just a story about it, would say, okay, you gave me the synthetic diamond, I'm going to get married to you. Yeah, that's not the norm. They've built up that relationship so long. Now, they're making that decision. I don't know if they are making the decision, he's making the decision, she's making the decision. So you wonder, who is the decision maker? And I'll ask you about that as well. And now they're saying, oh my gosh, I could buy a synthetic diamond and I can get away with this thing and I don't have to spend that much money. So it's a very rational decision to say, diamond reagent, not the most expensive. I can get away. I went to visit a store here in Damat store here in Dubai in the big mall, and I went in and I said, okay, how much is a 1 carat synthetic diamond? They have a little brand for synthetic diamonds. They said 2,500 dirham. It was about $700 to $800, whatever. And then I said, okay, how much is the same thing? What do you have in carats? Show me another 1 carat natural diamond. He was 8,000 dirham. I said, wow, that's a big difference. He says, yeah, you know, these synthetics are doing very well. A lot of people are buying them. So when you look at the markets, and I said, what about, you know, other people who want it? There's some only natural. They don't want to know about, you know, synthetics. And then there's a lot of people, most people, he says, most people go buy the synthetic. So now we're in a challenging space because who is that person, first of all, who buys the natural? We need to bolster them. We have to encourage more of them.
Yeah.
Because we have somebody who's winning. We have someone who's doing what we want him to do. So we have to study them and then understand who they are and how to get more people to be like them. Now I'm just trying to understand everything. You know, so for our readers, for our people who are looking at this thing, I want them to understand these segmentation approaches we're taking. And now there's a lot of decisions going on here. You know, it's like a pain in the ass making decisions. You know, people don't like to make decisions if they don't have to. It drains them. You know?
Yeah.
All right, so now they're making this decision. And who is it? And it's who's the woman? First of all, who's making the decision? Is it both the man, the woman? Do you know who's making the
Yes,
decision?
she is.
She's
making the decision.
She's one.
Yeah.
And she makes him think that he's making, but really she's making.
Yeah, maybe that's true as well. I mean, but generally they're sitting down together.
They're doing this together.
They're deciding on a budget for all of these elements in their future life together. It's it's not spontaneous, it's considered.
Not spontaneous.
But she's making the decision as to her preference for the ring, and that includes the stone that's in it.
So now we're focusing on the woman.
Yes.
And now we're trying to convince her to convince him or to say she wants a natural diamond.
Yeah.
That's the challenge. That's our challenge.
Correct.
So we're focusing now. We know who we're talking to. We're trying to get people that have the money that they can afford it, because if they can't afford it, well, you're saying everybody's stressed, okay? And now they were looking at a diamond, say, I'm just talking here in Dubai. And Dubai is interesting because it's a global market. So we got Americans, Russians, Chinese, Japanese, Saudis, you name it, they're showing up. And you know, I was actually talking to the store, and he says, well, we have 5 different salesmen. One speaks Arabic, one speaks English, one speaks Russian, one speaks French, etc. One speaks Japanese even. All right, so now we're segmenting out our markets among the people. We have to serve all of them. And I'm thinking some people are saying, okay, I want to buy a natural diamond. Obviously, they have to have the money. You don't have the money. The States, maybe they sell it on credit, but we're talking engagement.
I mean, to me, it's not always about the money, because they have still been spending $3,000 to $7,000 on a lab-grown diamond. So
really, they're spending that much money on a lab-grown diamond, $5,000. So they have a budget.
So they have a budget. So that has been the challenge, because as a retailer, you're saying, well, they're spending the same amount of money, but they're getting a bigger stone, and I'm making a bigger margin.
So you say margin, because I looked at James Allen and I saw that they're actually making more money, not just more margin. So in other words, when James Allen sells a 2-carater, it's crazy, you know, synthetic versus a 2-carater natural.
Yeah.
Dollar for dollar, they make more money selling the synthetic.
I mean, people like James Allen are, because they are still very expensive competitively in the market.
Okay.
But the reality is that's not going to last forever. It's a question of time, how long that lasts.
There are arguments right now. I'm looking at consumer behavior.
But from a consumer behavior point of view, yes, they have been up until very recently spending pretty much the same amount of money. So, it's not actually the absolute amount of money they're spending.
Okay, so they're not worried about the money. Where does the money go?
They have a budget.
Okay.
And the choice within a budget is to say, do I want a bigger stone that is man-made, or a smaller stone or a lower quality stone that is natural?
Wait, so we're talking about different things now. So first there was the idea that there's a price advantage. I want to spend less money so I have more money for my honeymoon.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to happen. Then they're going to set a budget for the diamond ring. Then with the budget for the diamond ring, they're going to say, I'm just trying to narrow down the point of decision. So the point of decision might be, I want to spend $800 instead of $2,000. Let's say those are actual numbers from Dubai 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Yesterday, actually. So, okay, do I want to spend $800 or do I want to spend this? That could be one of the decisions. $800, why not spend $800? And then she might feel, no, I really want a more meaningful, symbolic gift of commitment when we're getting married. That's what's going through her head. Okay, that's a possibility. So we have to hit her on that decision and say, please, buy the natural. Don't buy just buy the, we don't even saying don't buy the natural. Buy the natural. It's emotional. You've been waiting for, it's like you, it's going to buy the emotional. Okay. Now there's a question of the size. So we got to think about what's causing the decision to go. So let's say they have the commitment of the $5,000 for the engagement ring. And now they look at these two rings and they say, oh, that ring looks so much better than the other one. It's bigger, it's cleaner, it's nicer, whatever the hell it is. So now we have a second little battle going on here, okay, about the look. And not only her look, because it's a gifting, cultural community. You spoke before about interesting groups of people, right? You said everybody has their culture. I hope I'm mixing this other thing, but you were talking before about
tribes.
Tribes.
Yes.
Tribes.
Yep.
So in my tribe, okay, everybody gets 2-carat diamonds. It's not a 2-carat diamond. I feel out of my tribe. I'm embarrassed. I'm going to buy a synthetic. I'm going to fit into my tribe. And so the other girl looks at the tribe and says, well, she's in my tribe. She bought a synthetic. I'll buy a synthetic too. And we'll release the pressure. We'll release the financial pressure. And we're confronting that now. We're going right in there and we're saying, hey, man, got to get you tribal people to think your tribe has got to have natural. The natural tribes versus the synthetic tribes say. How do we do that? How do we convince? So we're talking about who we know we're convincing. It's the women. We know that we're talking about a budget that's been decided to some degree. And there's a question about the budget. That's going to be an issue. We got to convince her that it's important to spend money on an engagement ring. Which, interesting, you're saying, well, they've already agreed. But let's assume they've already agreed, which is a question about the marketing to them by an engagement ring. It seems almost terrible to say, buy an engagement. I was reading this article in the Wall Street Journal, which is talking about women taking the ring off and not wearing it so much, Okay, so we've convinced them that the diamond engagement ring is important enough to get a bit of money. And now we got to worry about convincing her that smaller is better, And that's a hell of a job you've got here, man. So you're tough, man.
No, it's not, because it's not tough. I think anyone in the natural diamond industry could make that argument and convince that consumer.
So how do you do that? Talk to me.
Well, so our challenge is twofold. One is you can talk to the consumer in one of two ways. One is either directly yourselves, and that is by telling that story through social media, through Instagram, through TikTok, through Weibo, WeChat, all the social media platforms. So just constantly where she is, which is on her cell phone, is constant in her feeds telling the stories of why natural diamonds are valuable, why they're individual, why they're the oldest thing you'll ever hold and own, why they retain their value. So we've got to tell that story. So we've got.
You're talking about retaining value.
So, but value isn't necessarily financial, but it's the values that you associate it with. So if I could give you an example, we had a couple of examples actually. One was a colleague of mine was in a store, and I won't say where or when or whatever else. It will narrow it down. But she went into the store and was asking about the difference. What's the difference in the laboratory-grown diamond and that natural diamond? And the answer by the retail salesperson was said, well, it's the price. Like, the price is the only thing. I mean, I know what choice I would make if someone said to me, the only difference is the price.
Sure.
Another example was, again, we had a mystery shopping exercise, and the mystery shopper said, look, where did that diamond come from? And the person who was behind the counter said the name of the state, and again, I won't say where it was, the name of the state where the distribution center was. Now, again, anyone who feels a real passion for natural diamonds would have said, look, let me tell you about where natural diamonds come from, how they were,
they've been trained, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
but not just but Martin, the challenge is I don't think there's another product in the world that retails at $1,000 to $10,000 where there is so little education, information, knowledge presented by most of the people that are selling them. I can't imagine going and buying a car or going and buying an iPhone, going and buy anything that's $1,000 plus, where the sales professional that's selling it to you lacks so much knowledge. And so one of the biggest challenges for our industry, and retail sales, for retailers, it's challenging. They have a high, some of these retailers have a high turnover of staff. They clearly have transitional staff during the holiday period. But we have this real challenge as an industry that the people who are communicating this at the point of sale are selling a very valuable product, but they aren't being informed, educated, inspired by what a natural diamond stands for. And even then, not every customer will buy a natural diamond.
Sure.
I fully acknowledge that they will still be attracted to the cheaper, bigger option of a laboratory-grown diamond. But for me, a lot more will be buying a natural diamond if you were to sit down and say to them for 5 minutes, this is where it comes from, this is how it's created, and not to take up their time. I think that for the rest of their lives, they would look at that diamond on their finger with much more emotional connection because they know how old it is, they know how individual it is, they know the positive impact it's had. So we've got a huge challenge as an industry to explain those values to the end consumer, either directly through social media and digital platforms, or indirectly through the sales teams that are ultimately expected to be the fountain of knowledge by the client when they're in a retail store.
So we have an interesting further situation here. Salesman training. Got to explain, because you can't sell what you don't believe in. And you don't have a story to tell. So when they walk in there and they say, I want to spend $5,000 in an engagement ring, especially if you're making as much or more money on the synthetic, which I think could be happening because it's so damn cheap to buy it the B2B, and then you could sell a B2C with the price anchoring going on for the natural, all right? But say we're talking about what I saw yesterday in Dubai, say $750 versus $2,000. Reality kind of a situation. Both of them are branded, although I think the brand was better for the synthetic, but say the branding is both the same. I've got to convince her, him, whoever, to spend the $2,000. Or they already decided to spend $2,000, settle for a 1-carat diamond instead of a 3-carat diamond. And I may be making less money. I mean, we have to watch the margin about what's going on, because there's another story here relative to the B2B price shifts and then how that works out in B2C price shifts. And it may take a while for the B2C price shifts to be driven down to the B2B price shifts because of competition time. It takes competition to go. So if Walmart starts knocking out 5 caraters or 3 caraters, say, for $3.99, $4.99, okay, people will see it. They may like it. They may not. They may actually want to buy from a retail jeweler because the buying experience at Walmart isn't exactly what they want or what he wants. Because they want that luxurious feeling of going into a store and looking at the showcase, and she's been thinking about that. Part of her diamond dream has been that experience, rather than going to Walmart, asking them to page the person for their jewelry counter.
Yeah, although the only contradiction with that is when you look at one of the biggest retailers in the world is Costco.
Yeah, and
Costco's got a phenomenal business in very nice natural
people are used
diamonds.
to the Costco experience.
Yeah.
It's a different game plan. They buy cars from Costco. They
Yeah.
buy gold bars from Costco. So, but Costco is probably the best price supplier. Tano, take a look and tell me, how much is a 1-carat FVS or something like that? 1-carat FVS at Costco right now maybe go into whatever we have, so tell me that I'm in New York when I'm asking the question, or Atlanta, Georgia, or something like that, and let's see what the price actually is, okay?
Yeah.
Because I know what it is right now in Dubai.
Yeah.
I know,
Yeah.
So we can look at that. So so let's say Costco. Okay, it's a different buying experience, but I think people are used to that.
Yeah.
And the woman's not going to get too pissed off. But it's too much to ask, even that I only want that experience. But okay.
Yeah.
Now the person's there, and they want to buy this ring, and there's a question about what to do. And I think that confusion is probably one of the greatest concerns that we have about this whole marketing campaign, because we're wandering into a swamp. We're wandering into a world of tremendous confusion. I mean, disagree if you.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear your views on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the confusion is going away. And simply, I think the bigger the price differential, the more we all know when something is and I don't know what the numbers are, maybe a 25% difference, maybe you think it's the same thing and you're getting a better deal. But once the price differential gets too big, you kind of go, no, this is something different. So we're getting to a point by which I think the consumer knows they're getting something different. Anecdotally, consumers are now coming into retail stores in America and saying, I want a natural diamond. So whereas, historically they come and say, I want a diamond, and then, as you said, you're then saying, okay, you've got a choice of a natural or a lab grown. In the case now, it's kind of saying, yep, I want a natural diamond. I've made up my mind, I've done my research, I know about it, that's what I want. And again, so I think these things are changing probably more rapidly than we appreciate, maybe not as quickly as we would all like. But these behaviours are changing. So from our point of view, like when you're selling anything that's more expensive, you have a job to do to explain why the more expensive product is great value for money. It's more expensive, but it's better value for money, and that's true whether you're buying cars and you have a choice to buy. I can buy a cheap car; it will get me from A to B economically and efficiently. But I don't buy a cheap car because I want a more expensive car, because that gives me values that I don't get from a cheap car, which could be comfort, it could be prestige, it could be a lot of things.
Right.
Yeah, the tribe I belong to, you go into certain restaurants, you'll only ever see German cars parked in the car park. Because
they hide the other ones.
Yeah, that's right, because the valets move the other ones around. But no, generally, if you sit there and you look at it, you'll see that certain tribes identify with certain brands and certain things. So that's our job as an industry, is not to worry about laboratory-grown diamonds. It's to acknowledge it and say, we have a job to do to ensure that the added cost of a natural diamond to a consumer is great value for money. And that is predominantly emotional. It's partly rational. But that's what we've got a job to do. And if we don't invest in that, then we will only ever be, they're the same, but this one's cheaper and bigger. And that's the big industry challenge we're facing at the moment, is we are not investing in explaining why a natural diamond is better value for money than a lab-grown diamond.
So why is it better?
Because of the emotional values that you associate with natural diamonds. If you want something that is created billions of years ago, that is authentic, that is the original, that is natural, that is individual, is something you'll genuinely want to pass on to your family, all of those things are and if we don't believe in it, then we might as well pack them and go home and open a lab-grown business for it. I do passionately believe it. And again, I've had the privilege of going to Botswana, going to Canada, seeing the mines, seeing the positive impact, seeing what it takes to...
Wait, so now there's a message about positive impact.
Positive impact is all part of it.
Okay, well,
yeah, and that's what I mean. Is that
I'm trying to unpack all these things.
Yeah, no.
A lot of unpacking going on here. Okay, there's this emotional values.
Yeah.
Values, not just emotional value. You want to retain these values. You want to be a member of your tribe. So we have to convince tribes and say you are a Jewish woman from Long Island, and you wouldn't imagine that you would possibly ever buy a 2-carat synthetic, which, by the way, isn't true today. Today, the tribes are coming and saying, she did it so I can do it. She bought a synthetic so I can buy a synthetic.
And none of us like to believe that we're tribal. We all like to think we're individual, but the reality is that we do.
Let me throw something at you again. So what is luxury, in your view? Define luxury for me.
Well, for me, luxury is the opposite to a commodity. So a commodity is something that you have to buy, you need for life. It has a purpose, a function, and you need to buy it. You can't, it's not to say you can't survive without it, but you pretty much
It has
need
utility.
it. It has utility. A luxury is something that either by itself or on top of the commodity has strong emotional values that go with it. So it has an emotional connection. Like if you take the fashion industry, we can all buy clothes, a huge spectrum of pricing, quality, etc. But whether it's a car, whether it's clothes, most things in life could be a commodity. But generally in the luxury world, there's a significant emotional element to it. And it's that emotional element that needs to be communicated, the values of the company, the brand, the product, as to why you should buy it. And the result of that investment is that generally luxury is a very high margin category because it's an emotional category that's there. And that's the difference between a luxury and a commodity. A commodity is something we have to purchase, or we need, or we use, or it has a pragmatic purpose. A luxury is something that adds to that, has an emotional context that makes you feel very, very different from just buying it as a commodity.
So when I'm doing an emotions, a lot of these
And,
things.
and sorry, in fact, sorry to interrupt you, Martin.
So please go.
Yeah. And a great example of that, because people think luxury is about price. Luxury isn't about price. If you take fragrance, for example, most consumers know that the fragrance inside that bottle is a fraction of the cost of what they're paying for. But what they're buying into, even at $50 or $100,
Smelling good.
it's smelling good, but it's the whole dream. It's I want to be like that person that I see in the ads. That's what makes me feel good. I want to be that person, etc. So luxury isn't about price. It's about the emotion that is attached to that object that you desire.
Interesting. So, yeah, you can buy a car that gets you from point A to B. You can buy a Toyota or something, or you can buy a Lamborghini.
Yeah.
Buy a Lamb, it's a different deal.
Sure, and most people know that they have to stay within the speed limit, whether they're in a Lamborghini or whether they're in a car. Especially today, where even the most basic cars have have all the electronics on them, everything that you'll possibly need.
Yeah,
So
it's
so you don't get from A to B any quicker. It doesn't function very differently, but it's how it makes you feel when you buy it, you drive it, you have it parked on your driveway. And again, and it's what you associate. Some people will say, I want a Lamborghini or a Ferrari or a Porsche, and it's what you associate, it's the values that you associate with.
So then let's think. So where would we spend the money? Training, the salespeople.
Yes.
Messaging. Okay. And when we look at the markets, and we talk to people with money, people without money. Okay. And we talked a lot. It seems like we're talking a lot about bridal here. Okay. We're talking about that cornerstone of diamond demands, of commitment, where people really are theirs. But maybe we can define where there are areas where we're just giving up, like, I don't know, fashion jewelry. So, and also we have different markets. Okay, so Tanish says we're not selling synthetics because of a very strong basis of how business works in India, where it's a value proposition, and people will look at something and say, not so much Tanish, but other ones, how much does it cost? How much gold does it have? How much diamonds does it have? And if I sell it back to you, what will you give me back?
Yeah.
And we've seen that also in Dubai with some of the retailers I've been talking to. So they can't jump into the synthetics so easily because they're not selling the diamond as much as they're selling the customer who's a generational customer that's coming back to them, and they want to make sure that that customer keeping back to them, and therefore they don't want to now tell the guy, what am I going to buy it back for? I can't offer a buyback. And we do buybacks between 15 and 30% below what they sold it to you for. It seems to be what I'm seeing right here in Dubai and in India. Okay. So they can't go to synthetics. But let's look at America again. I'm buying something. Look, they will pay more from Tanish. But Tanish said, I can't go to synthetics. I just can't do it because of the way that India has this. You don't sell the product as much as you sell the customer. You want them to come back, but that's changing. But
Yeah.
That's the basis of business.
Yeah.
And it's also very holiday or event.
Festival, yeah.
Or marriages.
Yeah.
And marriage, everybody gets something. The mother of the bride, the mother of the groom, the cousin of the groom, the sisters. It's the whole thing. Okay. Now let's go to America, and you're talking about fashion jewelry. Is it worth fighting for that? I mean, Swarovski's there, Pandora's there. Should jewelers be trying to convince people who are buying relatively $500 or less jewelry? How does the market? I mean, do we successfully market by, picking the fights we can win, versus killing ourselves to try to convince all these jewelers to sell $300 items and that are like you could buy it for $80, then you can buy it for $500 or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Where are we going to focus our marketing bang?
But I think if we focus it on what we believe in, on what is the emotional values of natural diamonds, it's the same whether it's in bridal or it's self-purchase or gifting or whatever it is. It's those values associated with it. I know we tend to be very pragmatic and say, well, let's break it down by customer and et cetera else. But the values of natural diamonds and what they stand for and mean and their origins are equally valuable, whether it be her buying for herself, her buying for a gift, her buying for bridal. As I said, when she buys for herself, she's much more likely to buy natural than a lab-grown diamond.
Really?
Yeah, I mean
Why is that?
because she's buying it for herself.
So why she wants to look good with her friends.
Be-
It's a nice
because-
little
because-
ring. It's a sweet little look. It makes her look nice.
Yeah.
It matches her shoes or her dress
Yeah.
or her whatever. What does she care? Why would you think she would be choosing a natural?
Well, because with the exception, and I think the one exception where would be different might be in like essentials like studs, earring studs, and areas like that. But generally, because she wants to. Generally, it's not a commodity. Generally, it's not an expectation. It's because I want to. You don't decide to invest in something and then not get the best. That's the thing that's going to make you feel the best about it.
$300, pin an investment.
No, but it's investment in yourself. It's how you feel. You don't have to buy that pin. It's not a.
Right. It's a luxury. You don't have to buy
it's a
it
luxury.
because-
There's no reason to buy it. But when I buy it, it's to make me feel something. And when I do something, I say it was a big mistake of the industry. A big prediction of the industry was that lab-grown diamonds would succeed in fashion, but they wouldn't in bridal. And it was completely the opposite, as you said. I understand why everyone predicted it that way, but that was to misinterpret consumer behavior. Buying an engagement ring is a cultural expectation, and therefore, when it's a cultural expectation, it's kind of, well, I've got other challenges to do. When she buys for herself, generally in a much higher proportion, she's treating herself and she's buying natural diamonds for that. So we've got to be very careful that we don't look at these things from a pragmatic, rational perspective. Because whenever we do, particularly as men, and men not in the generation of the consumer, we come to the wrong conclusions on things. So we've got to be very careful and very clear that we understand the nuances of the market, the cultures that we are speaking with, to really understand that behavior and not make wild predictions that frankly don't have any real basis in who we're actually speaking to.
So what you're saying is that it's really person-based, and if she's the kind of woman that says, I want natural, whether it's fashion jewelry at a lower price point, or whether it's an engagement ring at a higher price point, she's going to want the natural, even though it may be a lesser product in terms of how it looks, okay? But if she's not, then she's going to buy whatever looks bigger, better, whatever have you. Okay?
Yeah, I mean, it's for the same reason that there are cultures within societies, cultures in the world, where they will only buy the authentic, the real thing. And there are other cultures which will say, look, and this isn't in any way to be disrespectful, but I will buy the counterfeit. I'll buy the duplicate. I'll buy something that copies it. And there are whole, fast fashion industries that have been built on copying trends driven by luxury fashion brands. So
luxury fashion brands, you're buying added value because of the name of the brand and because of the advertising that you saw and everything that was driving that. And the advertising is well focused. So you're
Yeah.
saying, okay, I'm on a Rolex. Rolex is a great example for me because Rolex puts tremendous advertisements out there. And now the retailer sometimes does co-op advertising with them.
Correct.
Okay? And now it's great because people walk into the store saying, hey, I like a Rolex. You know, not only that, I want a Rolex Daytona, or I want a Rolex, even cheaper was $5,000.
Yeah.
I want an Explorer 2 Rolex, okay?
Yeah, and Rolex is a fantastic example, a fantastic parallel. A lot of independent stores, as you know, will sell luxury watch brands as well. But Rolex has invested huge amounts of money in their brand perception and their brand values,
Yeah,
both directly and co-op.
That's built into the price, but you can charge more. I mean, so when you buy a Rolex, you're buying marketing.
Absolutely.
You're buying that.
Absolutely, but that's what we haven't done as a diamond industry.
But we don't have any brands. I mean,
no, but we don't need to. We spent decades doing that, where De Beers did that job. So De Beers did it.
but they've stopped doing it for decades.
I know, but that's where we have shot ourselves in the foot, Martin.
So we have to go back to where we were.
We have to go back and think of diamonds as being a brand. So don't think of the brand. But if you turn around and say natural diamonds are a brand. So
You're
what?
saying
So
natural, but people think diamonds are a brand, and they don't think natural or
but
synthetic, and they apply the brand. They apply the generic branding
Martin.
onto the synthetics.
I know, Martin.
It's like
You're 100% right, which is why we rebranded ourselves from the Diamond Producers Association to the Natural Diamond Council. And at that time, people said to me, "Why have you done that?" Because we are diamonds, and it was an anticipation that it would need a pronoun to go with it. And so it became very clear, and we did, and we wanted to define that. But when we launched the Natural Diamond Council, it was hardly used the term natural in that context, and that's only 4 years ago. So if you, without getting into a whole marketing lesson, because you don't need that, but if we consider natural diamonds as our brand, if natural diamonds is our Rolex, and we say, how are we going to communicate that as being the values of that brand, the desirability of that brand, the aspiration of that brand? How are we going to show up in stores? How are we going to present ourselves in stores? Because we don't look as good as Rolex does in stores. How are we going to train our people? Rolex will not allow retailers to sell their product unless all of the staff that sell that product are highly trained in there. We're a long, long way away from that. And so so if we think of this as Natural Diamonds is a brand, a singular brand, albeit with a very fragmented retail and thing, we would approach it completely different. We would approach it very differently. Say we would train people better, we would advertise, we would communicate, we would behave like a brand. And if we did, we would have much greater sales, we would have much greater margins. We would have a whole different industry. I said when I joined, I said, if LVMH could buy this industry, they'd fire everybody, they'd fire all of us, and they would double the size of this in 5 years, because they understand what it takes to create a brand. Now, that's never going to be possible, although, I didn't know it at the time, but obviously they soon after went in and bought Tiffany. But that's what we've got to do. Think of Natural Diamonds as a brand. We've got to create the values, create that premium, create the emotion that goes with it, train the people that are selling it, better presentations in stores. But without all of that investment, then we're not a brand. We are a commodity. And if we're a commodity, I'm afraid that there is only one destiny for us. And I am, anyone that knows me knows that I have a mixture of huge passion because I believe in this. I know what we can create. And frustration because the industry won't provide that investment to be able to create that brand of natural diamonds that creates that scale of business, those margins that everybody wants. So, yeah.
That's the challenge. So let's think about this then. All right. So how much money do you have?
On me at the moment, or as the Natural Diamond Council?
Natural Diamond Council?
Yeah, so our annual budgets are around $35 million a year.
Okay, that's some money. Not enough. I mean, we'd be thinking selling $70 billion, say, and we should be selling $7 billion.
Yeah,
which means that if we were 0.5%.
Yeah,
you should.
We're not even that. We're 0.05%.
Okay.
And I think $35 million is a lot of money. So,
depends
but
what
I
you
think
wanna
it's
do with
worth
it.
no, but it's worth putting it in context. You know, the luxury brands like the Cartiers, the Van Cleefs of the world, they'll be spending $500 million to $1 billion. The Signets of the world probably spending 400 to 500 million. So how much we're spending when you then break that down on a global basis? If you then break that down by different retailers, etc., it breaks down to nothing. I mean, I hear that, you know, in today's money, De Beers was probably spending 20 years ago like $300 to $400 million a year.
And though they was 270, they were spending about 5%
Yeah.
of their sales.
So
You know,
it's
so 5%. You could argue with De Beers to spend 10% of your sales, but right now De Beers is going to have a 2.5 billion a year probably.
Yeah.
Which is yikes. 37 drop, another 30% drop. You know, they've been dropping, man. So even if let's say they can do that, okay. And I imagine their spend is different than your spend, right?
yes. I mean, obviously
the campaign that we're seeing right now, worth the wait.
yes, that's their spend. That's nothing. That's not. We're not involved in that.
Yeah, right. So that's a different campaign. So whatever they're spending, so you got 35 million. Where are you putting the 35 million?
So we then America is obviously the biggest market, but we also invest in China and India.
So let's talk America. Let's talk America.
Let's
I
talk
like America.
Yeah.
And China, good luck selling diamonds to countries.
Yeah.
I'm not so excited about China.
Well, China's we're very fortunate to have great diamond retailers there who we partner with. So
Oh, really?
yeah.
Are they getting any traction there?
I think the market feels like it's turning there, but it's still a tough market.
Yeah.
It was interesting what you were saying about India and the value and the price and the impact
India's-
that has.
India-
But it's actually, I think we're realizing in China that, you know, with gold, the price having gone up considerably and diamond price being challenged, the China market is showing itself to be more similar to India in terms of the actual value. But so you come back to the question in terms of America.
Where's the money going?
So,
Where's the money
yeah,
going?
so where's the money
Follow
go?
the money,
Yeah.
follow the
So where
money.
the money goes? So it goes partly to our retail partners. So
You have retail partners. So
so
how does a retail partner deal work?
So the retail partner is they partner with us and they invest in media and advertising in their local neighborhood.
For their store.
For their
selling
stores.
Themselves. Okay.
They're selling themselves. They use our campaigns.
So you actually
So
give them the messaging.
We give them messaging, very much like a Rolex would do.
Okay, you give them an actual ad copy and
We
stuff
give them
like
ad
that?
copy. The only adaptation they make is they put in their jewelry. So they will
Can
have.
they get this stuff online, or they have to be a member, or what if
Yeah,
they're not
so
a member? Can they get it
Yeah,
online?
they're not members. They're partners, and they make a commitment as to how much they spend.
Ah,
So they make a commitment of spending a minimum of $10,000 per store.
okay.
And in return, we'll help contribute towards that. So
Oh, that's great. So
it's using
it's
our
like- it's
resource
almost
to.
like so you give them material, like
Yep.
here's the messaging, here's the ad, here's the thing, here's the text maybe for a radio, or here's a picture that you could put into an advertisement, maybe something like that.
Yes.
Love to see some of that stuff later. And then they say, hey, we're going to spend 5,000. We're going to spend 10,000. So they go to you and they say, what will you give me? You give me 3,000 out of the 10,000, 5,000. How much will you? It's just like co-op advertising.
It's like co-op. Typically, we would fund about 25% of it.
Very nice.
So,
that's money.
so-
That's money for them to spend
Yeah.
to drive people into their store to buy their products.
That's right.
And that's very nice of you. That's very appreciated.
Yeah, but from our perspective, it means that for every dollar that we spend on it,
You get another
they're
3.
spending another 3.
Right.
So that's generally our how we try and work with limited budgets is to say, look,
Sure.
working with partners to say, look, okay, we'll contribute, but you need to contribute and put in as well. Those
And if they do
retailers,
that, what do you give them? I mean, so they say, okay, I'm going to give you, 25%,
yeah,
I'm going to give you $100, you're going to spend $400. That's the deal. And then you control, they have to promote, obviously, they have to promote natural diets. They can't do that and start promoting, synthetics. All right. And then you monitor the results, or what happens then?
yeah. I mean, we don't get direct retail sales information from that. We obviously, meet with the retailers at least twice a year, if not 4 times a year. We educate and train all their sales teams. We have
Really?
online education modules that they all
Once the guy
take.
agrees to spend money on advertising, they say, I want to be a member. I'm going to spend $10,000. You say, okay, sir, we're going to write you a check for $2,500 if we can train your salesman, give you the material that we want you to give. Okay, so that probably costs you around 12.5, I don't know, how much does it cost you? It costs you about 5,000 or something?
Yeah, I
Do
mean,
training
it's
maybe
online.
3,500 or
It depends on your scale. There's fixed costs, and then once to roll it out, education because it's online, etc. So
And that's a marketing campaign.
it's a marketing campaign.
Is it
So-
focused on seasonal, Christmas, or
No.
or just general?
No, I mean, this year has seen more of a shift towards the actual values of diamonds themselves in real, rare, and responsible. So it's actually been speaking more to the diamond than diamond jewellery, albeit that they customise it by showing a piece of their diamond jewellery. But it just helps these retailers reinforce the values, the emotional values of natural diamonds.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll do the messaging. So that's the deal. So you could actually, I don't know, $35 million, maybe $10 million is overhead, or $5 million maybe overhead, or something like that, for the trainers, the people,
Yeah.
pay those things. Maybe you got to say $30 million.
Yeah. So
$30 million, you should be able to go 4 times that. Maybe get 100.
yeah, but not all of that. So that's only one part of it
Okay,
that we spend on
what else?
retailers.
Yeah, I'm
The other big part of it is investing on pushing the values of natural diamonds into social media feeds.
So
TikTok, Instagram, YouTube,
how's that going
Facebook.
for you? I mean, I can ask my guy over here. I got my TikTok. I got my social media
Yeah,
guy sitting
well-
around here. We're shooting all these cameras. We're podcasting around here.
Yeah.
How's that going?
Well, Martin, I thought you'd be on TikTok and following it and then seeing how it works. But if you're not, then I can.
We're doing other things like what were we doing? We just started doing TikTok.
Instagram, LinkedIn.
Yeah, we're doing some stuff, and we're doing
Oh,
it on
TikTok.
social responsibility with Sierra
Yeah.
Leone right now, and we're getting, we got 45,000 on LinkedIn, on how do you call it? We're starting to get some good. We're not doing TikTok very much because the Chinese are going to shut them down now. The Trump's in. But
Yeah, but Martin, if you want to speak to consumers, you
Yeah.
have to speak to the consumer where they
Well,
are.
I know.
It's the TikTok and the
Yeah.
YouTube,
Instagram.
the
We
Netflix
do a
is
lot of
the
Instagram. We do a
Netflix
lot
of the
of
world.
Yeah.
But the reality of it, to get into people's feed, you have to spend money.
Yeah, I
You know, and it's
We know a lot
it's
about
amazing how many people say to me, but how many followers have you got? Well, followers don't matter. Because you look at most brands with followers and you look at the engagement levels on it,
Right.
and you know it's not even getting into the feeds.
Yeah, we're looking at views.
So for us, it's about having that real expertise in saying across all of these platforms, how are they all working every minute of every day?
Yeah.
Even if you change the copy, if you change the copy, does that make a difference? Are they more likely to respond
Shai,
to
what's going on with this
to a
stuff
country?
here? I want to ask you, okay. So we got this guy. He's doing social media, all right, and he's looking at all the feeds and all that stuff, right? He does short form stuff. He does 30 seconds, 60 seconds, bang, 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 because our people, our target markets don't see it. So you're hitting these target markets in social media,
Yes.
and you're getting results. I guess you're trying influencing. Do you use influencers?
We do in some platforms. So TikTok particularly when it comes to telling diamond facts, to correcting myths around the message, because obviously when the National Diamond Council says something, people will come back and say, well, you would say that. You would say that, wouldn't you? You're funded by the mining companies, blah, blah, blah.
Like Olivia. Do you work with Olivia?
Yeah, we've worked with Olivia, and we work with a lot that aren't in the diamond industry.
Who?
So a lot of influencers that aren't in the diamond industry.
Right, okay.
Because again, we can be very insular. We all love the people that we follow in the diamond industry, but most of our consumers aren't in the diamond industry.
So do you think that influencers can actually change the tide here in terms of, there's a very, very strong movement on social media towards synthetics. I mean, unbelievable.
Yeah.
And it's everything. It's everywhere. It's certainly in engagement rings as well. And we're figuring maybe 60% are going to start coming this year, 2024. Hopefully it'll start retreating as Walmart starts showing people that this stuff isn't that great. But, we put out some stuff with producer Michael, who's got, I think he's got about 6 billion views, okay? And so you get a lot of people. You put something out, you get 1 million people, get 500,000 people like that. And I did a whole thing with him at the show, and then people were really pissed at him. Oh, they said, don't you give us this Rapaport garbage. Man, those diamonds, man, you're pushing those natural diamonds, killing people, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So what happened was all the sewage came right back up,
Yeah.
And so I don't mind that. That's okay. But I'm just thinking if influencers or social media, maybe it's a little too early. But I don't know. I don't know.
But it's not. It can't be too early. You've got to be prepared for a response.
Yeah,
And the
good
response
response, good
isn't always going to be what you like. But then it's about planning and saying, how are we going to respond to it? So let me give you another example.
Yeah.
With the Shanghai Diamond Exchange in China,
Right.
we are now working through an agency to monitor all of the social media platforms in China. And through that agency, the first step was to do all the monitoring. What are the most common challenges? What are the most common comments that are there? And that differs by platform, depending on which platform you're in. And then replying to them to make sure that in the feeds you have people that are correcting it. And saying, well, actually, this is not right. But it has to be.
Yeah.
I mean, if you take the fastest growing platform in America, where people are now searching for information, it's Reddit.
Yeah.
And that's blown up in the last 6 to 12 months. If you look at the first page of most Google searches now, the non-paid part of it is all Reddit. So we have to respond. We've got to transition and go, we need to be on Reddit. We need to be there with the responses.
To everybody, or just your posts, or people respond to your
posts?
posts?
So we're now advertising, and you can directly advertise in Reddit where terms come up. You know, say if people are talking about diamonds, we want to appear in there, and how do we do it? But it's why we as an industry are incredibly slow and at getting into these spaces.
Would you expect other people to do this? Would you expect like retailers to start responding to people who say something about synthetic or natural diamonds? Or
I mean, it would be good if they could, but it's difficult when your resources are fragmented.
Well, yeah,
So it's much better to pool resources and say, okay, this is what we want to do. We need to have one organization that does all this, because most retailers, a lot of retailers don't have a full-time marketing person even. Yeah. So you can't suddenly expect them to be on TikTok, Instagram, Reddit, Google, and all of these other areas. It's not.
So you're raising the issue of natural diamonds with your messaging on social media. People are responding, and then you're responding to those people, and maybe other people are doing some things about diamonds or something.
Yeah.
And then you're making sure that we respond to them so that there's a discussion. Maybe even, I mean, I bump into controversy occasionally, which gets us thousands and tens of thousands of, stuff. But I'm just wondering, Shai, do you think that's a good business to kind of turn the tide on natural versus synthetics using social media influencers or something? I'm just asking this guy.
Yeah, sure.
He's my social media expert. He come flying out here with me. It was like a chilling kind of situation over here.
Come on, Ty. We want to hear your strategy.
Yeah, I mean, come on,
Just to put you.
Yeah, what's your?
Come on, Ty.
No, stay where you are. He's not there. He's my producer here. He's actually my producer today, and he's been chilling too much. But
yeah. Very short. He spoke a lot about emotional connection, right?
Yeah.
With diamonds and how you emotionally connect to things. The same applies for social media. You want to get an emotional connection. So if you're going to convince people about diamonds versus synthetics, the same emotional connection applies.
It's weird. I got to piss him off. What I got to do?
Tell him the truth. You tell him exactly what it is. You say it like it is, and that's it. If you're gonna convince somebody about the approach to a real diamond versus synthetic, the emotional connection is what's gonna hit. You're gonna tell them what it really means to buy real over synthetic.
So you just bring up the issues. You're just honest, and you say, "Hey, natural diamonds."
Martin, you're as real as it gets.
You
put it out there. You just say it like it is.
I say it like it is. All right, that's cool. That's cool.
You.
I'm saying, but he's got this $35 million, which now is maybe $10 million because he spent money on this co-op and blah, 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 and now he's going to throw some money into social media. And I'm just wondering if it's as effective.
But Martin, if I could turn that around.
Please do. That's what we want to do.
If you're not speaking to this consumer on their phone,
you're not talking to them at all.
Then you're not talking to them. So it's not a case of whether.
I'm not against you talking to them.
No. So that's what I'm saying. It's not a case of whether we should or whether we shouldn't. We might debate the how and on which platforms and the technical aspects of it. But it starts with saying, do we all agree? And clearly, that we have to speak to people on the platforms where they spend their time. So if we tick that box and say, yes, we all agree with that principle, it then comes down to the nuances, and each platform is different. What you do on Instagram and TikTok and Reddit, it's all completely different. The consumer that's on them is completely different. You'd much more like to use Reddit in what we call lower funnel, which is, I want to find out more. I'm shopping for a diamond ring. It's much more of a search and understand, whereas Instagram is much more of an inspirational, I want to be inspired by. And so they're all different, and it's one thing we all know about marketing is everyone's got an opinion on it because we all consume it.
Yeah.
Everyone's got a different idea in this industry about which values are the most important. And
Yeah,
so they scream at me and say, no, it's about positive impact or it's about
they
financial.
Don't know what they're doing. These
But-
guys, if they knew what they were
No,
doing,
no.
they wouldn't need you.
Sure, but the reality is they're all right, but you've got to do it in the right way, in the right platforms. And that's why it's not like a print ad. It's not like saying, let's all agree a print ad that will run
Agreed.
in every magazine.
So how's it working for you? How's it working for us? Where are we today? Are we getting screwed?
Yeah.
Are we getting... Is it getting worse? Is it getting... My rabbi used to say, he said, I don't care how religious you are. He said, are you getting more religious or less religious? Okay? We're out there in the soup mix of
Yeah.
diamonds being synthetic diamonds or LGD diamonds or whatever they call them today.
Yeah.
How we doing?
Well, I mean,
How screwed
so,
are we? Let me put it that
so,
way. You know?
so we're not screwed.
We're not screwed? We're not screwed. We're not screwed.
Absolutely not. Not by a long shot. If you start with the big picture,
Yeah.
and it's very difficult for people that are in the industry to look at the big picture,
Yeah,
diamonds are still highly desirable.
they are.
Without a doubt, they're highly desirable.
By who? By women.
By women, by men. More men are buying diamonds than ever before.
For themselves, for their women.
For themselves.
Really?
If you look at whole cultures like hip hop, you see how diamonds are being worn in
Yeah,
hip hop.
we got
it's
that,
it's significant. If you go down 47th Street in New York,
Yeah, I got a good
and,
friend.
and you see
I got
that
a
you
really great
sure
friend. I got a friend, Traps, on
yeah,
47th
I know.
Street, man.
You
He's
see,
got, what, 1.8 billion
Yeah.
views, and like, I've been hanging out with him, and he's a top dude.
he-
He's doing
he-
some cool
he-
stuff.
He's your
man.
bro, yeah.
Well, he is,
I see
man,
it on
we
your
hang out
social.
with him out there, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we went out with him, and there were a bunch of really cool guys celebrating his
Yeah.
birthday with him, and you know.
But I mean, it's great that you spend time with him because
Yeah.
you see
Oh,
a
yeah.
part of this industry that we don't
People
often talk
They
about.
can't imagine it, you know. These are
Yeah.
not your Rolex retailers
Yeah.
hanging out with
But it's
Traps.
all guys. It's all guys if you go down 47th Street.
Yeah.
And it's an incredible. I get, you know, I walk out of the office and go, I'm just going to go and walk through 47th Street because it gives me
There's
a
a
much
vibe.
better connection. Yeah, there's a
Where
vibe as
you
to
based?
who's
Where you
there.
hanging out?
Well, I was based in 44th Street.
All right, not bad. That's
yeah,
close.
but I've moved around the corner and I'm in London now.
London.
So,
oh, man,
yeah,
you're
yeah.
hanging around with those British dudes.
Yeah, so still
Starch
doing the
Underpants
same
over there, I mean.
role. But so
You got no tracks in London.
maybe I should start. Maybe that's the opportunity.
I don't know. Maybe you got to do something. You know, any hip hoppers out there in London?
There's a few very good designers there,
Yeah.
actually, who are doing some great stuff. So, yeah, not on the same scale as America,
One of
obviously.
my guys who's the talent. What are you talking? You checking your head? You got some London dudes?
There are a lot of big hip hop.
Are they
Yeah.
cool or are they just like
There's
you know
a lot.
creepy?
Yeah.
Creepy? Are they good ones?
There's a lot of
Anybody
very big
pushing?
hype.
Anybody pushing diamonds and the big babalaba?
They all got big chains, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Big chains. So.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. So,
Aspirational demand. It's like, you know, one day was Marilyn Monroe singing. Now we got some big hip hopper with a big chain
yeah.
And grills.
and grill.
Yeah.
Those grills are ugly. Oh man, are they ugly? But
The-
hey, that's what
yeah.
people want.
But Martin, if we come back to the question,
Yeah,
which was how do I feel about diamonds?
This is not
It is.
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
but absolutely. But if the question was, you know, how do we feel about diamonds?
Yeah, yeah.
Diamonds are hugely desirable by all generations. The desirability is still there. Engagement when we do social media is bigger than any other industry. So there is a passion and desire for natural diamonds, but we take that for granted. You've got to tap into that.
Stir the pot.
You've got to keep it culturally relevant. You can be desirable, but people might go, yeah, but that's old. That's my grandmother,
Yeah.
or that's red carpet. It's
Yeah.
not achievable. So you can be desirable, but
and you're
not
doing all that. And that's
not
where
relevant.
you're putting your energy to get
Yeah.
those dudes to make it more, just to stir the pot.
to be relevant.
And that's social media.
That's social media, and that's what you have to be as a brand. And we're saying Natural Diamonds is a brand. You have to be relevant, and you have to be constantly feeling relevant every day, every moment of the day, in all of these social media platforms all around the world. And so, we can do that. And as
You
I
need
said,
a lot more money to do that. I mean,
it takes money, but
You're just drizzling a little.
yeah, but as you know, the money is a fraction of the money that the industry loses because we won't invest in it. So it's like all investments. It's kind of, if you look at investments as just a pot of money, it's a lot of money. But relative to what we are losing, it's a fraction of that money. So I am always kind of caught between a complete passion and belief and excitement about this industry. But the trouble is that comes with a frustration because the potential is there. This is an industry that can boom without a shadow of a doubt, all the factors are there to say this industry can boom, but it's our choice as to whether we want to invest in it. And if we don't invest in it, then it won't boom. And we are then at the destiny of being a commodity. And then we, and we as a generation in the diamond industry will have to take responsibility from turning it from a luxury into a commodity.
Yeah, it's going to be a challenge, though. I mean, so you got the 35 million, okay? I love the idea that you're matching, that you're promoting people that raise, and I think that also that there's got to be a lot of viralization where the jewelers themselves or their kids or their staffers or whoever it's got, they hire people that go out there and do their personal, personal. I mean, there's a lot about authenticity. And there's a lot about, how people relate to each other as people rather than organizations or companies.
Yeah.
So like we got to stimulate them. It was interesting. I was talking to the CEO of DMCC a little bit earlier today, sitting here at this table, and they said we create an enabling environment. We don't invest in things, but if someone does invest in things, we help them.
Yeah.
We let them know where the market is. We let them know where the buyers are. We'll help them deal with all these different distribution points that we know. It's kind of interesting to take that, create an enabling environment and get out of the way kind of thing. And I think that's what you're trying to do to a certain degree, although you're actually doing stuff yourself. But, I don't know, training. I love the idea of training. I think it's really great. And maybe training salespeople. Maybe we should be training social media people that work for these stores to do stuff like that, because that's a kind of salesman thing.
It is. It's just that, again, because we're such a fragmented retail industry, it's exactly what happens in China. If you go to China and you work with the big retailers there, you can get to scale because you're dealing with fewer people and they all have real scale, and their ability to execute is incredible.
Is it like Chow Tai Fook?
For Chow Tai Fook,
big companies, they're big. Sang, stuff like that.
And they have incredible ability to execute across thousands of stores and cities.
Because China,
it's admirable. In most other markets, we don't have that. It's very fragmented, and they don't have the resources, they don't have the people, they don't have the skills.
India looks like it's low-hanging fruit here.
India again is predominantly small retailers by the mum and pop, small groups. It's the most regional market because of cultures and languages and etc. So India has got its own fragmentation in culture much more than any other country really. So India has its own complexities. For us, you're absolutely right. We want to build upon building platforms that enable everyone to participate and draw upon and grab and do it. But that's never going to be a substitute for us as an industry doing it for ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
And so therefore
I'm thinking more social. If you had more money, where would you put it?
Into social media.
Yeah,
without a doubt.
Rather
into
than
social media.
Co-op advertising.
I mean, it would enable us to reach more retailers because obviously in fragmentation, like all relationships, it's investment of time and money. So we can get out to reach more retailers. So so it would be a combination of the partners, whether it be retailers, manufacturers, whoever, so who can expand on the message for us, but also going direct. That means that we don't have to have it filtered, adapted by how other people want to adapt it. We are doing it ourselves in that environment. And so that's the key. That's the key to it. And as I said, the good news is that we can turn it on tomorrow. If we have the resources, this isn't like in the days of De Beers when it would take 6 months to produce a campaign, get it on TV, get it into print magazines. This is something that on Monday morning we can turn on.
Do you have teams that do this? I mean, do you have social media guys? You got
absolutely
graphics and the stuff like that.
We do it.
So you're not in bad shape, then you can do it.
Yeah, we do it all in-house. We do it incredibly cost efficiently.
Can you get messaging other guys like me and say, okay, I'm going to tell you why natural diamonds are great and boom, 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 and you got stuff like that we can do. So we should make sure we repost him or do something with him. We'll look at your stuff.
We buy.
Push it out there.
We buy our media in-house. We don't pay agencies. We have our influencer relationships we do directly, so we're not paying double the price for the agents that come between it.
And you're targeting B2B also, a lot of that. You're targeting, like you're going more to B2B or B2C, or you're doing both?
We're primarily B2C. Our mission is consumer. And we go B2B where
You want to flip
B
them
is
to the
speaking
consumer.
to consumer.
B2B, B to B to C.
That's right. It's consumers and
So
those.
could you give us stuff that we could give to retailers and say, hey, get out there, put this up there.
Yeah.
Here's some messaging for you.
Yeah. And that's what we're actually rebuilding our website, and we hope to launch that in the next 3 to 4 months. That will make it very, very easy for everybody in the industry to go into it and find the resources they need. Very simply, and those resources could be, I want educational materials to give to my retail partners. It could be social media assets that I want to use on social media. It could be images that I need for my website. We've spoken with a lot of other partners, say, would you also house your free content on here as well? So it's a single hub that's there. We'll
Take a
put
look
all
at
of our reports.
So where's this up? So what is it? What do you call it?
So we will.
Natural NDC?
We're currently naturaldiamonds.com.
Naturaldiamonds.com.
yeah.
But that's how about what's on,
So-
how do we pick you up on LinkedIn or not a LinkedIn? Is that
So
called?
generally on any of
Instagram or anything?
yeah,
Just
so
go
on all of-
hashtag Natural Diamonds?
yeah, or just search only Natural Diamonds,
Only
only Natural Diamonds.
Okay.
and you'll find that on all of the
All right.
platforms.
So, like, we close on this thing. What do you got a message here? You could talk to all these jewelers. I mean, a lot of jewelers watch us here. What's your message to the jewelers? Joe Jewelers out there. What do you want to tell the guy?
Yeah, it's the confidence in natural diamonds. You know, it is an incredible gem. It's history. It's unlike any others. When we tell the story properly, there is no other product, gem,
And can
anything
they
in the
learn
world.
where to tell the story properly by going to your website?
Yeah, through our website, contact us directly, contact me directly, and we will put there, like I say, we will be improving our website and all those tools in the next 3
How do
months
they
or so.
contact you?
David at naturaldiamonds.com.
David at naturaldiamonds.com,
It-
everybody.
it's-
You got
it's-
that, David?
it's
Call
e-
that David. Hit the David up.
It's
Yeah,
very,
okay.
very easy to remember. David at naturaldiamonds.com. I'm always happy to receive feedback, commentary,
Great.
ask for support. That's what we're here for. We're here for the industry and to promote the industry. So I never shy away from sharing
Cool.
my contact details.
Great. I'm Martin at Rapaport.com. You can hit me up too, and we'll try to get you in with this guy and see what we can do to sell some of them natural diamonds.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Thank
All right,
you
Martin.
very much. It's
Pleasure.
good to hang
Always
with
good.
you.
Always good to
Good
speak.
to see you.